Hey YouTube, I'm doing outstanding. Welcome back to the podcast. I still need to come up with a name for that. I'm terrible with names. Don't worry about it. Today, I am here with my buddy.
What's up, guys? This is TheFlamingD, also known as Doug to the locals in my life, I suppose. You can call me either or. I'm known as either or. And yeah, we're here to talk some shit.
Yeah, so you've already read the title of the video, but we're here to talk about El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie that came out recently. Now, this isn't something we've ever really talked about on a podcast before or anything like that. Mostly I've stuck to like video games and whatnot, but I really enjoyed this movie and I'm happy to talk about it. So, Doug, what was like your introduction to Breaking Bad in general?
My introduction to Breaking Bad, back when my sister had a boyfriend that is not her current boyfriend. He was a super artsy dude, and it's kind of what led to me to being so into stories as I am. It's a part of it, and I saw them watching Breaking Bad one day. I just happened to walk downstairs, and they were watching it, and at the time, I wasn't that interested. It was like in season 2, and there wasn't a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I talked with him about it later, though, and I talked with him about the show at length then, and again, I still didn't really develop an interest in it until like a year or so later, when I watched it, because I saw it on Netflix, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I've heard some good things about that show, and I watched it, and then I watched it again.
Yeah, my intro to Breaking Bad is pretty similar, to be honest. I was a little bit later on because I definitely didn't watch it any time when it was on the air. And that's primarily because I'm that kind of asshole where if people are into it, I'm not.
You are that kind of asshole.
Yeah, which is why I still haven't seen Game of Thrones. I'm working on it. I want to now.
Now we'll keep badgering you.
But the thing is, he has it on disc. I just don't have a disc player because that's about as outdated as VHS to me.
And I will continue to badger you.
I will continue to Skinny Pete you. Anyway. Basically, so one day I was over at Noah's place, and you guys have heard Noah on the channel plenty of times before, and his dad was watching Breaking Bad, and I was just like, whatever. But it happened to be the train heist episode from, like, season 4? Is that season 4?
No, I believe that was season 5.
Season 5.
I was, like, the beginning of season 5, though.
Either way, that was the first episode I ever seen. I was like, holy shit, this show is amazing. And so I ended up, about 2 years later, I ended up actually watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know, I'm terrible with timelines and things. But it was on Netflix. I had Netflix. I was bored one weekend and just binged the whole thing, and it was fucking amazing.
It's super easy to binge, dude. It's super easy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's only like 62 hours or something like that, and it was the best cinematic 62 hours I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, easily. I mean, I know Vince Gilligan often compares it to like a modern Wild West type film, and with the train heist and whatnot, he's on point there, and I really enjoyed it.
This is getting into El Camino a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair to say we're going to talk full spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely. This is 100% spoilers. Technically, we haven't spoiled El Camino yet, but we're about to because there is a shoot-off scene.
And hey, remember that scene where Jesse dies?
Anyway, yeah, he gets into a car crash. They're like 20 minutes into the film. It was ridiculous. The whole film's about Todd.
Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the movie's about Skinny Pete, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It's like, anyway. Speaking of Skinny Pete, though, adorable relationship between him and Badger. You know, like, super cute couple. Anyway. Beyond all that, no, I really like that shootout scene between him and Neil. Fucking amazing scene, really. And I like how afterwards, like, they were shooting at each other, but they were like missing a whole bunch of shots, and that's way more realistic than is most often portrayed, which is really nice because when you're stressed out, and you're just kind of firing aimlessly. It's not that easy to hit,
No,
especially
he
not a
doesn't
moving
name the
target.
headshot though, and that's like
Yeah.
a little all right.
Yeah, that was a little bit creative leeway there. Now,
Mhm.
like the first, when he kills Neil, I totally get that because he had plenty of time to sit there and just prepare his shot.
Oh yeah, he was right in front of him.
Well, he was right in front of him. He had like 30 seconds to like move a hidden gun and like get it into. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Mhm. We're getting off track here.
Yes. So yeah, that was my introduction to Breaking Bad, and I really enjoyed it. Do you have like a favorite episode?
Fuck. Mm.
It's really hard to choose. There are a lot of good ones.
The first one, oddly enough, that stands out to me is Jane's death.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a huge turning point for Walter.
That to me is really the moment where Walter White lost his soul.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people say that same scene, and it's got some of the most phenomenal acting I think I've ever seen with Bryan Cranston there. And I was actually watching an interview with him, and he said that the reason that the acting was so amazing there is because for a moment there he saw Jane as his own real life daughter, and he was just able to conjure up emotions that Vince Gilligan said couldn't even be portrayed on camera properly. I mean, and that's just how amazing it had been.
I think my favorite overall episode is the plot to kill Gus.
That's another good one. I think, for me, my two favorite episodes, like it's hard to choose between them, is Ozymandias, which is like just before the very end of the series, and the train heist. I mean, the train heist was so cool.
I mean, it's a train heist.
It's just a really well done modern train heist, and then Todd shoots the kid. I mean, what a dick.
What a dick move, shooting kids, man.
Yeah, and that's another scene where we really see a massive change in the characters from what is seemingly a small action.
I mean, Jesse has a big reaction to it, but Walt and Mike, for the most part, they even let him stay on the team.
Yeah, that's... To be fair, he's with a whole bunch of Nazis, so it's,
I mean, true.
It's a little bit hard to just, kick him off the team, I'm sure. Either way, yeah, it was such a phenomenal series, and I can't wait to see what Vince Gilligan does next. I did not know that he did, I think it was the X-Files.
Yeah, he did an episode of the X-Files.
Not just an episode. From what I understand, he did quite a few, but the Bryan Cranston was on a single episode of it. And that's where he got the idea, that's where Vince got the idea of having him as Walter White. God, it's just so crazy seeing Bryan Cranston in so many different types of roles.
He's a well-rounded actor.
He really is.
He's nothing like Walter White in real life.
No, I would assume not.
Believe it or not, he's not a murdering, meth-slinging kingpin.
Funny enough, did you know that Vince Gilligan claims that a lot of what Walter White does is because that's what Vince Gilligan believes he would have done in the same situation?
Really?
Yeah, so...
Right.
From the interviews I've seen with Vince Gilligan, the story that he tells over and over again is when he started thinking about Breaking Bad, it was about 3 years after X-Files had ended, and he hadn't really been up to much, and his buddy was like, oh man, I think we need to just go start cooking meth. And he's like, well, shit, what would happen if I started cooking meth? And so... he was like, all right, like, we could just paint this guy who's already a criminal and, make it simple. Or we could take somebody just like me, from Vince Gilligan's point of view, and turn him into a meth dealer, find a way for him to get in.
And famous film creator, something super relatable.
Yeah, film creator, Nobel science dude, whatever, something like that.
Something super relatable.
But yeah, like a lot of like, especially like the beginning scenes, Vince kind of played off like he had no idea what meth was really, like he had no idea about the process. He didn't know how to murder and hide bodies, so he's like, well, what if I had to learn that? And so he learns along with Walter how to do these things, and it's just it kind of really paints it really interestingly. I also found out that a lot of the planned scenes that we see, or at least the things that we think are planned, weren't at all.
Oh yeah.
For example, Crazy 8 was not intended to survive the first episode.
Really?
Yeah, that was completely made up because the cast and crew liked the actor.
Are you talking about Crazy 8 or Jesse?
Crazy 8 past the first episode.
Because Jesse was not intended to survive past season 1.
Yeah. He was supposed to die in season 1. He was just supposed to be Walt's entering into the criminal system. But Crazy 8 was supposed to die just choking to death with his brother or with his cousin Emilio. But what had happened is, first of all, the cast and crew really liked the actor, and two, he was just like, well, what we don't really get to see on TV is how do they dispose of the bodies, and what happens if one is alive, and so he's just like, yeah, sure, fuck it, one of them's alive now.
One of them's alive. Why not?
And it's really interesting if you ever go back to that first episode how different it is, and that's because Vince Gilligan is the only one to have worked on that. There was no writing team on that one. It was pure Vince Gilligan, and so it's a very different show.
It is.
First episode really isn't my favorite for sure, and that's no harping on Vince. It's simply that the rest of the series is much better.
I do want to point out that the first episode is the only episode in the series that has boobs.
Yeah, that is true. Wait, is it though? Because they did go to a strip club for Jesse's when he blew all the money for the RV.
I feel like I would remember if I have seen boobs.
They must have been nippleless boobs, like they had something over them. Because they were definitely in a strip club.
You're giving me another reason to rewatch the show.
Yeah, like, the scene I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, I know the scene you're talking about. Do they go to a strip club?
Yeah, it's definitely a strip club. And they blow, like, all the money on strippers and booze.
Sounds like a good evening.
Yeah, definitely. So, I feel like we should get into at least the last episode of Breaking Bad. A lot of crazy shit happened there.
Yeah. The last episode feels to me like a bookmark for the entire series. It's something that just closes the book on the whole thing.
Absolutely. It was really, really well done, and like a lot of shows have terrible endings, but this one was, for the most part, pretty damn well done.
I mean, there's arguments to be made that it could have been handled better. The biggest running argument is Walter White never really faces the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, which a lot of people are disappointed with, but Vince Gilligan liked it that way, I guess.
I don't really have too much of a problem with it.
I personally, I don't mind, simply because from the very beginning, we're supposed to at least like Walt a little and then, grow to hate him, but a lot of people just still felt bad for him the entire series.
Yeah.
And it's completely understandable. His life is shit. He just made some really bad decisions to make it worse. And so in that final episode, yeah, it does kind of suck that, we don't see him getting caught. We just see him dead.
In the words of Vince Gilligan himself, you can view that ending in one of two different ways. Either he won or he lost, because in the end, his family still does hate him, and he dies.
That's true. Personally, I think he lost. Sure, he avoided the serious consequences of his actions, but he died knowing that his family hated him. He died knowing that he had ruined Jesse, which is someone who he saw as a son, and he died knowing he was a piece of shit. But he also kind of felt like he had just won by, taking out all the Nazis. So,
Well, he also secured the last of his drug money.
yeah.
He kind of made amends with Skylar.
Yeah.
And then he kills all the Nazis and frees Jesse.
So he gets a lot of wins right before death, which probably made him feel better. I think it was the best way that Vince Gilligan could have ended it to allow everybody to have, at least a mostly good ending. Not everybody will agree 100%, but most people will agree with the ending.
It'd be impossible to end a show like that and have everyone be like, yeah, that was good, I liked it.
Exactly. Yeah. God, it would have been a pain in the ass. I'm sure it's not damn near impossible to have a really, really solid ending. But I feel like El Camino does tell part of the story that I personally wanted to hear. And that's Jesse's side.
And if you look at that last episode through Jesse's perspective, it's really interesting.
How so?
Well, if you just look at like what he experiences, and if you put yourself in his shoes, and if you view it through his perspective, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he pretty much just...
Go on.
He pretty much just gets tackled by Walt, and then some bullets start flying into the room that he was unaware about. It's like, yeah, he's got to be freaking the fuck out. And then Walt's like, "Hey, kill me!" And then he's like, "No.
Hey, kill me, shoot me, do it, you coward."
Yeah, no, it's definitely like really fucked up from his point of view. And confusing as hell, I'm sure.
He was just living what his life is now, and then all of a sudden he gets pulled into a meeting with Jack, and Walter's there.
Yeah, he's just like, "What's going on? This is fucking weird."
And then Walt tackles him to the ground, and everyone dies.
Yeah,
and then he chokes out Todd.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of hatred he must have been building against Todd the entire time. I mean, in El Camino, we see him interacting a lot with Todd, and it's amazing the fact that he didn't just kill him sooner. Oh my god.
He had the opportunity to, but you understand why.
Yeah, I mean, there was one scene, and we'll talk more about it later, but that scene where he gives the gun over for a pizza. When I first saw that, I was really confused.
Like, who wouldn't?
Well, the first time I watched this scene, I had completely forgotten about Brock, and so I was just really confused. I was like, why the hell would he give over the gun? He has an easy win here. Sure, the Nazis will be after him, but he can flee. Like, what the fuck's going on? And then, like, second and third watch, I was just like, oh, I forgot about Brock.
Even if he kills Todd, the rest of the Nazis are still out there, and they will kill Brock.
Yeah, and so Brock doesn't even know how much this one random dude in the middle of nowhere cares for him.
And, like, Brock also, like, my god, man, his mom dies for no reason, according to him.
Yeah, that too. Just fucking...
Jesse disappears out of nowhere, and his mom is dead, and no explanation.
Well, and I mean, he knows a little bit about, drug stuff because of Tomas. And I believe Tomas was killed by Gus's men, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't think he's completely oblivious to what happened to Jesse. But
he may have some notion, but there's no way that he will ever have complete closure on any of it.
Depending on what that note says.
True. The contents of that note.
Yeah, I mean, we find out it's just the script for Breaking Bad. It's just like, wow, I wrote it in such... It's like you need an electron microscope just to read it because it's written so tiny on that, piece of paper. But, it's the entire script of Breaking Bad. It's great. Anyway, you know what? We should just get into this here. So we open up on a scene of Mike Ehrmantraut and Jesse just before they're gonna talk to Walter about selling the methylamine, and he's talking about where he is gonna go. And obviously this is leading up to the end of the movie where he goes to Alaska. It's like, where do you want to go? Alaska. But what makes me disappointed is that in, I think it was season 1, episode 7, Jesse says he wants to go to Oregon, and that never comes up again.
Damn it!
Like,
We could have had Jesse.
I think, oh god, what was the job he wanted to do? It was something ridiculous like dog groomer in Oregon. It was like, what are you talking about, Jesse?
Maybe. It might have been. I know that, like, by the end of the series, he wants to be a carpenter in Alaska.
Yeah, it was some weird stuff. Weird stuff. And I know a lot of people online are equating Jesse to Jesus.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that, too.
It's a little ridiculous, but, there's some connections, Jesse, Jesus, carpenters,
Carpenters?
They're going to a new frontier, I mean, resurrected,
Like, I read an argument online that was like Jesse coming back from rehab was like Jesus being reborn after being on the cross. I'm like, you're kind of making some stretches here. I can't believe some logic, but you do you, champ.
I think that's not even the furthest stretch people have made in theories.
Probably not.
I think the furthest stretch I ever saw in any of the fan theories that I have ever read, for Breaking Bad that is, was that Jesse and Walter Jr. were the same person.
Really?
They're never seen on screen at the same time. And
oh my god!
That was about all that they had holding up this theory. In that sense, Mike Ehrmantraut is also played by Walter Jr.
Exactly. Walter Jr. is actually everybody in the series. He's just the puppet master of the series.
Except for, like, the people that he actually meets. Like his family and Saul Goodman. Because I think he also meets Gus. So that's about it.
All the random gang members that Walter White kills, it's all Walter Jr.
Fucking amazing. No, I don't know how much you know about how they selected R.J. Mitty to play Walter Jr., but I did not know that he actually has the disorder in real life.
Oh, yeah.
And according to Vince Gilligan, they literally just searched all over the U.S. to try to find one person who happened to actually have it and want to be an actor and was a teenage boy. And it's just like the amount of things that come together. And it led to literally just one kid. And R.J. Mitty was like 13 or 14 when the series started. And
really?
Yeah.
He was that young?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy, and to see how far he went with that role and how amazing it was. I can't wait to see him in something else.
Breakfast.
Well, it was the specific type of Raisin Bran, wasn't it? Like Raisin Bran Crunch that he wanted.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to get that high-end Raisin Bran, man.
Oh god,
I little beach-end Raisin Bran.
I saw a fan theory about how El Camino was gonna end before it had come out, and it was R.J. Mitty as Walter Jr. was gonna beat the shit out of Jesse with a box of fucking Raisin Bran Crunch.
To be fair, I would have loved to have seen that.
Don't get me wrong, I think that'd be hilarious to see.
I would love to see Walter Jr. beat anybody with Raisin Bran, though.
Oh man. I also saw one, like, I think it was the same person who wrote that theory, but Holly is going to end up being a stripper, and that's how they're going to start the next series. Is Holly White, the stripper, starts being dealt this blue meth, and she's just like, oh, this was my father's.
It was my daddy's!
Anyway, so after that scene, we kind of just immediately cut to Jesse in the car screaming like the end of Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm. I want to take it back just one moment to the Mike flashback, because the big takeaway from that scene is the last line of Mike where Jesse says put things right, and Mike immediately shuts that down.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like, no, that's one thing you can never do.
Yeah, as much as you want to, you'll never be able to do that.
Mhm.
Which sucks. It does suck, and that's
And
one
it's
thing.
proven right by the end of the film, especially
Yeah,
with all of the flashbacks. You
yeah.
can't put any of that right.
And he tried with that one line he said to his parents, trying to tell them, it's like, hey, it wasn't your guys' fault that I turned out to be a piece of shit.
Like you
You
guys
know.
did your best.
Um,
I'm just shitty.
yeah, and I thought that was a really well done scene because at first you think he's, actually being emotional, but then you see he's just playing them, kind of like what Walter would have done.
Hmm.
The difference is we're
I feel
pretty
like he was
sure Jesse is telling the truth here, whereas Walter would have just been a straight up liar.
I feel like he was still more genuine in that moment than Walter was in a lot of his lies.
That is true. Yes. Oh
Mhm.
my god, some of Walter's lies were just terrible, though.
I know.
It's like, oh, do you know who that was on the phone? And Skylar's just like, I don't care.
Don't care.
Like,
He was gonna lie to me.
just stop, Walter. Just stop.
Walter, just stop.
Uh, but yeah, no, I think that line from Mike is well put for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the next scene, like I said, it's just like an immediate cut, and there's a lot
I
of
know,
those
it's
in
such a
this.
hard cut to him, just like, yeah!
Not yeah, more like, "Argh!" And
It's so jarring.
yeah, it's just jarring. We don't know this at the time, but we do figure out later. He's on his way over to Badger and Skinny Pete's, which
Well, this is literally like seconds
yeah.
out of where he was.
So the thing is, I don't remember them ever having a home like this. It's a beautiful home.
It is. It's Skinny Pete's house.
Right, but why didn't they ever bring that up in the series? I don't I mean it's such a nice home that it's hard to believe that a drug dealer or a drug user would live there.
Yeah, at least Badger has a legitimate job by the end of the series, I think.
Did he?
I know he worked as like a promotional artist, like a promotional thing for a company. Like he was like one of the people like out there spinning the signs.
Oh, that was
I
like
know.
way back in the beginning though, before he worked for Jesse.
True.
So I mean, I'm sure he's capable of working a legit job, but we also know that like the night before they just made like $8,200 from Walt.
True.
And I mean, we know that they were
Quick then.
what?
They bought a house fucking quick then.
Right? Like in a matter of seconds, they bought a house, pretty much.
They already had it lined up. Listen, I'll get the money. I just need one night.
Well, the worst thing is like they just give the $8,200 away later that day, so they clearly didn't use that money to buy a house overnight.
I just need to point a laser point at some rich people. I'll be good to go.
Right? I mean, Jesus, I wish. Anyway, that is one of the other like really good transitions in this film is where it goes from Jesse driving into the video game. At first, I was like, "This is some shit CGI," and then it was just like, "Oh damn, that was a great transition! Holy shit!"
Mm-hmm.
And then like you see the Star Trek memorabilia around the house, which was really cool to see based on their previous conversations. Because, like, Badger and Skinny Pete were talking about, like, teleporting the blueberry pies out of the dude's stomach and, like, oh, no, it's his guts out in space. It's like, I'm glad that they brought a little bit of that back in the background.
Mm-hmm. They were sitting in chairs from Star Trek, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, it's very well done, and I'm sure there's a lot of other secrets hidden in that background.
Probably, yes.
I mean, what drug user do you know owns books? I want to know what those books were.
What is contained in those books? What knowledge do you have, Skinny Pete?
So after that, Jesse comes to the door and he's like, "Are you lost?"
I know, he doesn't even recognize him when he opens the door!
Which, to be fair, I get it. Jesse didn't look like Jesse at all.
I mean, true, but Jesus, man.
Now, to be fair, it's dark as shit. And I do like how it goes to Skinny Pete being like, "Oh, who is it?" And then and then he's just like, "Jesse."
Mm-hmm.
It's like really well done there, and then it's like, "Oh shit!" And then they pull him inside. They get him a place to sleep and whatnot. He's fucked up.
Give him a thing of ramen.
I don't think they gave him that. I think they were talking and he just fucking grabbed that.
I mean, true.
Yeah, he was just fucking going to town. Which, the amount of food he eats in that scene makes me wonder why he didn't accept the soup from Todd. I mean, I get it. There's a dead woman there, but come on, man. You gotta be starving.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, maybe... I mean, he didn't even know about the pizza later, so I mean, I would have fucking accepted the soup, yo. I mean, it was bacon and beans.
That's some bomb-ass soup!
It was the last can. Anyway.
You don't just leave the last can!
So, we see Jesse, wake up, and he's like, he sees, like, the slats on the window, and he's, like, immediately he thinks he's back, and he's just, like, pulling out his gun. He's, like, freaking the fuck out, and that was a really well-done scene for showing what PTSD can really be like for some people. Mm-hmm. And it was really intense.
He immediately started to break out. Immediately.
Yeah. Like, fuck, it was just insane, because I'm sure, like, what was going through his head as soon as he woke up was just like, no, shit, fuck, it was a dream, fuck, I'm back, fuck.
Where am I? I mean, like, the way it's cut, he looks up and he sees the bars of the hole that he was kept in.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because then you see, like, the window, and you see kind of, like, a similar thing to, like, a tarp over the bars kind of view. So, I mean, I get it. I can see how that would have caused that, for sure. I love the how Badger and Skinny Pete go about talking to him. It's like, dude, you could use a shower, man. It's like church, man. Not to be mean, but fuck.
Right. Shit.
It's like, dude, you smell like shit. Like, what have you been trapped in a cage for 3 months or something? Like, fuck.
And then this Skinny Pete offers up, like, literally everything he has in the bathroom to him. I got some Axe body spray.
Some Hillfinger.
I know.
You can open up a new bar of soap, because, like, the last one's got hairs on it and shit.
Use anything you want. Use all of them. No, seriously, use all of them.
Oh, God. I love that. That was just... I really like those two characters. They've always been just really fucking funny. Now, I knew the actor who plays Badger from another show. Technically, that show came out after Breaking Bad, but I, hadn't seen Breaking Bad yet. It was, I think it's called, like, Mom or something like that. I can't remember. It's something stupid.
He was in The Office, if I remember. Yeah, he was in The Office.
Yeah, he's related to Dwight.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen The Office yet either by that point. Because, it was another one of those things. I avoid it until somebody forces me to watch it, and then... And then I'm like, wow, this is actually good. Why did I avoid this? And then I proceed to avoid other things anyway.
Dude, I'm going to sit you down in the chair. I'm going to peel your eyelids open, and I'm going to play every single goddamn episode of Game of Thrones in front of you.
Anyway.
You'll not be allowed to leave that chair until it's done.
Anyway, in that, he lives in an RV, and he's like this, weed smoking. He's basically the same character, but older and a ex-husband of somebody in the show. And so, honestly, he didn't seem that much different in this, but he's a lot funnier in Breaking Bad, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway. So not long after this scene, we see him contact Joe, the dude with the cars and whatnot.
Dolphin Joe!
Yes. And then he's just like, oh, man. Magnets! Yeah!
Magnets! How do they even work?
Fucking magnets! How do they work?
Well, he was talking in reference to
I know. Yeah.
One of the scenes for Breaking Bad where they had to destroy data on a computer
I know.
But they
And
couldn't get into the
he
building.
just... I think that was really well done. What I didn't like there was the timing. And what made it even worse to me is that they called out the timing. Like,
What do you mean, like that? How quickly he got there?
No, for the
Or-
tracker.
Oh, for the tracker.
Like, that just pissed me off more than anything, because they know Jesse's been missing, like, overnight. You know, like, they could have probably, searched it sooner. Or something, and I know, like, it's a film, and there's, you gotta have, some sort of disbelief here or whatever.
Tension.
What?
Gotta have tension.
Right, but it was just so disappointing to have him, going around. He's like checking the car. He's like, oh nope, it's all clean. Oh wait, nope, gone. And then he was like, oh man, look at the timing. I'm out of here. It's like, wow, that was the shittiest writing I've ever seen in Breaking Bad, for sure. At least to me.
That was probably the briefest cameo in the movie, though.
That is true. It was just the one that annoyed me the most. After that, we see Skinny Pete actually be intelligent, which was really nice.
Yeah, dude, he comes up with the whole escape plan. Good for Skinny.
Like he just right off the bat, he's like, "Give me those fucking keys, yo." Like, we're done.
Hey,
I don't know how this is gonna work out. We're gonna trade keys. It'll all be good. And then they just fork over $8,200 in cash.
I know.
It's like, man, I wish I had friends like that.
Right?
Man,
Hey,
I
so
wish I had
you
money like that.
$100. Would you mind?
Right? Just like, hey, man, I just broke the law. I gotta get the fuck out of here. Can I have all your money?
Can I have all your money?
Now, to be fair, Skinny Pete got a really damn good deal on that Camino.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Assuming he was able to keep it and the police didn't just straight take it.
I mean, I would not be surprised if they did, because it was used in an escape attempt.
Well, it also wasn't Jesse's to sell.
True.
It belonged to, I think, Uncle Jack? And then, like, Todd was driving it?
No, yeah, I think it belonged to Todd.
Did it straight up belong to Todd?
I think it did, yeah.
Okay. I was reading somewhere that somebody thought that was the car that Walt used. I was like, no, Walt did not use a Camino for the gun.
No, yeah, like, like you see the gun in the back of the trunk of his car.
Right, like the trunk pops open. I was like, you couldn't be more wrong.
Caminos don't have trunks. They're part truck for a reason.
So during this whole scene when like Skinny Pete's like doing all this shit, I think the most surprising part was when he takes off his hat and gives it to him, because I don't think we've ever seen Skinny Pete's hair, and I don't know why that was so surprising to me, but he has like a full head of hair, and I was really surprised by that. And then he says what is easily the best line in the entire movie. Yeah, at least in my opinion.
Hero and shit, man.
Dude, you're my hero and shit. Like, easily the best line in the entire movie for me. I thought that was really well done.
And then, like, Jesse's reaction to it, he's just kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's just like, okay.
What?
I'm just gonna fucking leave, you fucking weirdo.
Like, seriously, me?
I'm just gonna take your 8,200 and go.
Thanks, friend.
Oh, man. And then, like, as Jesse's driving away, we see a fuck ton of police. Like, more police than I think
my God,
would have normally been involved. Like,
So
Jesus
much.
Christ.
I was watching that, and I'm like, is all that just to get Jesse to that set? Did they send, like, the entire police force of New Mexico after him?
It seems like it in that scene. Like, oh my God, that was just a ridiculous amount.
We gotta get him!
And then, like, I think it cuts again, like, right after that to Fat Todd.
Fat Todd.
And this is
Dude.
fat with 2 T's Todd. Like, fucking
Oh,
fat.
this is double C thick Todd.
And, at first, they're hiding his face through the bars, so we're like, oh, Todd's not going to be in this movie at all, He's like, they're just doing this to make sure that, we can hardly tell that he's fucking fat. And then, like, he's just the whole movie.
I know, he has 3 different flashbacks!
It's, oh God. And he now, personally, having watched Breaking Bad like 5 times now, I never thought Todd was, creepy. I mean, sure, he was a little fucked up, but he wasn't that creepy. But this film, holy shit, Todd is creepy.
Todd
Like,
is
sure,
creepy.
Like, Todd's fucked up in Breaking Bad. You know, he shoots a kid without even thinking about it. But he's not that creepy.
He also pines over Lydia for, like, the second whole half of, of the last season.
But, I mean, that's at least a little understandable, you know? I mean, it happens.
Mm-hmm. And apparently he made a fucking snow globe with her in it.
Yeah, that was creepy. But again, that was this film and never showed in that.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Todd, like, literally grooming Jesse like a pet. He, like, fucking uses his saliva to adjust his hair. It's like...
He's like, I'm gonna take better care of you from now on.
Yeah,
like literally, like the fucking pet.
Also, I think one of the more jarring things about him was, like, he's standing here having this conversation with his slave about what the weather's like.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Jesse's even able to hold it together to give, you know, somewhat normal sounding responses, is ridiculous. But then, like, Todd is going on talking about, oh, you know, I think it's gonna be a beautiful afternoon, when he knows damn well they're gonna be burying a body later. It's like, Jesus.
Like that also like that like I think this is I think this is in a different flashback, but Todd like just like jamming out to music with a dead body empty in the back of the car.
I thought it was really fitting that the song was like spending the night together while Jesse's, you know, sleeping with this dead body in the back.
Together.
It's just so bad.
Oh my god.
So as they pull in to that parking spot, he pats his head. He's like, "Good job." It's like that's just
way to go, boy.
It's like that is something you literally say to a dog. And I get that Vince Gilligan makes a lot of dog related remarks, but this is a bit far.
Mm-hmm.
And then oh god, they put the back on the Camino, and honestly, who the fuck does that to a Camino? Like, you have to be Todd. Like, Todd levels of fucked up to do that to a Camino.
I mean, like, he does that, and then you discover the reason why he does that, so I feel like I can give him a pass.
I mean, I get the reason, obviously, but I would have found any other car, because that Camino looks like shit with it on there.
I know, it does. It's a shame.
Doesn't matter if you're transporting a dead body, just go rent a fucking truck. Like, come on, man.
You can't sacrifice the look of the Camino. It's not there, though, when Jesse makes his escape, so he must have wised up eventually, like, oh shit, that looks like fucking shit.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. Jesse knows about cars. You know, he's known to have souped up his own car, and in the first couple of episodes, he has a couple of motorcycles in his garage that are never brought up ever again. But
I don't think we ever see him riding a motorcycle.
No, we don't. But he does actually own two of them in the garage there. In the first couple of episodes, and that's where they took the bike lock from. But it was never brought up again, and that's mostly because they didn't actually intend for him to be a motorcycle rider. That was just like, does the set look good? Good enough. And then they're like, oh, wait, Crazy 8's not dead. We need to find a way to kill him. What would Walt do?
Bike lock.
Exactly. So it's... the motorcycles were just barely seen, I think like few seconds at most. And the only reason I even know anything about this is because 10 minutes before we started this podcast, I was watching another interview with Vince Gilligan, and he brought it up. I was like, oh, I did not know that. I thought it was just like a generic bike lock.
No, it was a motorcycle one.
So anyway, after they waste the time ruining the Camino, I believe it does a flashback or flash forward to where he's listening to the radio under the bridge.
Mm-hmm. And then we learn the official canonical fate of Walter White.
Yeah. So we find out that both Lydia and Walt are confirmed dead, or at least Lydia's about to be dead.
Mm-hmm. Lydia was poisoned by ricin. No shit, she's dead.
Right. We knew that, but it was confirmed. And then we get a callback to something else that Walt had said within the radio thing. So he said in an episode of Breaking Bad, I work for a company big enough to be on the NASDAQ. You know, something along the lines of that. And then, like, we get all these numbers about how the NASDAQ has gone down, like, the next day. Now, a lot of people are theorizing that, he did actually play a pretty big effect on that, simply because that is a lot of money to just gone. Which I think that it's difficult to say that actually had a connection to the NASDAQ at all. Because clearly the meth was not on the NASDAQ.
No.
But, like that, and I highly doubt the chicken company was either, to be honest. That'd be ridiculous. Because a lot of those types of companies, like, McDonald's, they're fucking huge, but they're still not on the NASDAQ. Because it's not the kind of thing you see on the NASDAQ. I don't know. It was just kind of interesting that they spewed off those kinds of things. Let's see. What happened after that? I remember, like, a light turning on, like, at the edge, and then, like, he starts driving, or it fades away. Oh,
well,
right.
He's on his way to Todd's apartment.
So at this point, we see him take way too fucking long to just walk through a goddamn door.
Hey, he had to unlock it. All right.
I get that, but it was one of the more infuriating scenes to me, just because, like, dude, come on. I get that this is supposed to be like, oh, he could be caught, but it's like, we all know that he's not going to be caught by some old dude.
Fucking crime scene.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think, I felt like that went on too long, for sure.
I could see that. I think it's fine in its length.
Now, what I did like was the really great transition, another phenomenal one, that takes us back to when he first saw that apartment. Just by, like, looking through that peephole, and then boom, you're there. It's like, fuck, that was really well done.
And then we get to see the action. And then we actually get to see the dead body at this point.
Oh god! So on
just
my notes,
reaction before we see the body.
On my notes here, I have written down a list of jobs that he thought they were going to be doing. It's like the Camino back, no. Paint, no. Dead Mexican, C.
Dead Mexican, yeah.
And it's just, God, Todd has such a way of talking. He's like, don't make me feel worse about this than I already do. It's like, she's fucking dead, dude.
You choked her out with a belt! You should feel that!
And then he takes the belt and puts it back on.
Well, he's gotta look fucking professional, alright?
Oh god, it's just so...
Saying classy.
And then I did notice, he asked if Jesse wanted soup 4 times. And Jesse didn't respond.
Dude, he didn't want that soup.
What's that? He didn't outright say yes or no. He just didn't respond 4 times. Oh, man.
He was contemplating that soup, and then he never got it.
Yeah. What? And then Todd...
asking Jesse if he wants some soup. That might have been asking a lot of Jesse.
That's... Yeah. I don't know. Like I said earlier, you're like, fuck, if I'm a slave, I'm going to want to eat some goddamn soup when it's offered. All right? That is some good protein right there. Also,
later.
One of Todd's more funny, less creepy lines here is, what is she looking up? M for Mexico? It's like, is that really what you think she's looking up, Todd? Like, come on.
M for Mexico?
And then he goes off to say, she deserves a pretty burial.
And he's like, yeah, like, Jesse asks, like, where are we going to bury her? And he's like, someplace pretty. She deserves that.
So I noticed something, there's a recurring number throughout this, and that's the number 4, because he mentions Uncle Jack says this 4 times. He asked Jesse about the soup 4 times, and there was something else that happened 4 times, and it was just really odd.
You know why? Because from a narrative perspective, nothing stands out in my mind.
I don't know why, off the top of my head. Because in the scene with Neil and the shootout, he also says "shut up" 4 different times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really odd number to be recurring throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
And normally that kind of thing doesn't stand out to me, but I was like, it was made so obvious, like, hey, do you want soup? Hey, do you want soup? Hey, do you want soup? Hey, do you want his soup? You know, Uncle Jack says, Uncle Jack says, Uncle Jack says, Uncle Jack says, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Like,
Shut up.
really weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Now I'm thinking.
But,
We're getting into conspiracy theory territory here.
yeah. I can't read my own handwriting. A lot of, like, time flip-flops here, but it helps keep the pace really well throughout the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit annoying to me. I'm not a huge fan of that particular type of narrative where it kind of flips between the past and the future a lot. I want one consecutive story. But I felt like it did keep the pace really well throughout the movie. So.
Mm-hmm. And the scene of Jesse just tearing apart Todd's apartment.
Yeah, just fucking annihilates his home. Now, at first, he's going through it very methodically, very Mike, you know, like
there's an Easter egg in the beginning of that place he checks is under the sink.
Yeah, I think everybody noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he hid his money.
Mm-hmm.
Or his meth, anyway. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And then he sees his parents on the TV screen across the way through a window. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time you see his parents in this movie is through a window, and the last time he sees his parents in the movie is through a window.
Mm-hmm.
Which we all know Vince Gilligan likes to do symbolism a lot. If you watch Breaking Bad, there's a lot of invisible barriers, as they're called, where they'll have like a post separating two people. Where it's like the post isn't actually separating them, but as far as the camera can tell, it's like they're separated. And it mostly happens between like Walter and his family. Even down to like the last episode that he's with Skylar, he's standing in her kitchen and there's that post in between them, you know, showing that separation. Mm-hmm. So in this, we kind of see Jesse distanced from his parents the entire film, really. And I think that was well done. You know, he's like, mm-hmm. He knows he can't really go see him again.
Well, like when they leave to go help him, like 3 other cars leave in the same direction, and presumably those are police cars.
Yeah, I think that's safe to assume.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very safe to assume.
Probably yes.
But yeah. So but we're not quite there yet. So, he's watching them, and they're like, "Turn yourself in." I was like, "Wow, what a bitch!" Like,
I mean, like, do they know what's happened to
him? Based on the news that they mentioned earlier, I would think so. Because they mentioned him being liberated by White.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would certainly hope so.
I think there's some idea.
Fucking Ed knows later in the movie.
To be fair, he works with the... Wait, Ed. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's a vacuum cleaner guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Real shame that he... In real life, he died from brain cancer the same day the movie came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude!
Yeah.
That's so sad!
It really is. I mean, I don't know him from anything but Breaking Bad, but I thought he played a really good role in this movie, and to see...
That's like his last big performance, then.
Literally, yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah. It's just, life happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But so after this scene, before he technically annihilates the house, because he was still doing, Mike Ehrmantraut at that point, it cuts over to Todd driving down the road with the dead lady in the back.
And just the most bomb-ass of jams.
But before that, actually, they drop her off a 2nd-story building.
They what?
To get her in the Camino, they just fucking drop her off the balcony.
Oh my god. They throw her from the 2nd story of the apartment.
What's worse to me is how little work Todd does. Like,
I know.
he's so kind to Jesse, and then he still treats him like a slave at the same time. He's like, yeah, we'll go get pizza, but first dig this hole, bitch. It's like, goddamn. It's like the entire time, Jesse is the one lifting the body up and over the railing, dropping it down, and then he has to like run down the stairs and get her into the car. It's like, come on, Todd. She was already down on the floor. Anybody could have walked by. You should have just moved the damn body. But Todd's like, nah, I'll wait for Jesse.
Nah, Jesse's got this.
I think, and then, you know, like, we see him on the road, and he's listening to the music, epic jams here, and we see him try to get the truck to honk as he's passing. It's like, Todd could not be further disassociated from the situation.
No.
It's just so bad.
Imagine being that truck driver. It's like, fucking no, dude. Speed up.
And then, you know, we get to the dig site, and he's just sitting there smoking, watching Jesse fucking dig. It's like,
I know.
yeah, goddamn asshole. And then he has the nerve to ask Jesse if he has anything to say about this woman he doesn't know.
And Jesse's immediately like, no.
It's like, no?
I don't have anything. I don't know her. She was your cleaning lady.
And then Todd gives what I can only say is the most just analytical description of a person. Nice lady, excellent housekeeper. That's it. That's all he says.
The most amazing eulogy I think anyone could have given in that situation.
And then he asked Jesse to go grab the cigarettes from the glove box, and he had to have known there was a gun in there. It's his, like, if it's his car, he had to have known the gun was there. He just...
Unless it slipped his mind, or...
I think he was so deep into the thought that Jesse's a slave that he was like, Jesse's not gonna do it.
Like, he didn't actually expect Jesse to grab the gun?
Well, because he just talked to him earlier. He was like, hey, you know, I don't want to do anything here, but if you try to flee, my Uncle Jack will fucking kill Brock. And so I think he expected that to hold more than it did. And then it did eventually catch hold, but, like, first thought, like, what if Jesse had been just a little bit stupider? You know, just, like, a little bit faster? You know, I was like, fuck. That's taken some risky moves there. And then he offers pizza and beer, and it's just so sad to see how broken Jesse really is.
Yeah. Like, he's still holding the gun. He's like, hey, what's your favorite pizza? Pepperoni.
Well, it's like we get this long scene of just silence, and then you see a tear fall, and he's just like, pepperoni? And he's like, oh, hey, that's my favorite too, man. It's like...
Classic!
Jesus, Todd! I thought I couldn't hate you more by this point in the film, but come on. And then like they're sitting there. He's got the gun. Take it away from him, and Todd's just like, "Oh man, look at that view." It's like,
yeah,
it's like he's already forgotten about what just happened. And then we flip back over to Jesse, and Jesse's just fucking annihilating that home, just tearing the shit out of it. To some really trippy music, I will say. I honestly really like the background music at this point in time. And then, you know, we find him eventually, you know, he's like broken down, he fucking just barely taps the fridge, and he's like, oh, shit, it's in here. Kind of how Hank found out that Walter was a drug dealer, just kind of stumbled upon it.
Yeah, literally, while he was shitting.
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel like that was kind of an insult to Hank overall, but at the same time, it was something that most people wouldn't have done. So I think cinematically it played off very well back then, and decently.
He was close enough to check him for a hernia.
What?
He was close enough to check him for a hernia.
Yeah. So let's see. So this leads to the whole FBI shtick going on. Yeah, and we see... honestly, I fell for it right off the bat. I mean, we've never seen these characters before. I had no reason to believe they weren't just FBI. So my asshole was clenched like this entire scene. I'm just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, he's fucked. And then fucking Louis, the neighbor, Jesus Christ.
I know.
So he served in Vietnam, and we hear that from Todd. But the worst part is that he's like talking about this investigation, and then he's just like, oh yeah, no, I was restaurant and hospitality division in Vietnam. It's like, so you did nothing?
So you didn't actually fight?
It's like, oh no, was like,
but I was there, man. I was in Nam.
It's like, oh yeah, I know 100% what it's like to have people not follow my orders. I was in the restaurant and hospitality division. It's like, God damn it, dude.
I was a soldier.
It's just so bad. So this is the part where we actually see Drew Sharp's tarantula, actually, as they're like looking through the place. And in that little cage there's actually a little dude on a motorbike in the tarantula cage, and I think that's just like the most fucked up thing on Todd's part right there. That he kind of recreated the scene where he took the tarantula from, and then we see the little like snowball thing with Lydia on the teacup. And it's we kind of see a little bit
more fucked up than we thought.
Yeah, we start to see a little bit more.
He's fucked up, but he's slightly more fucked up than we thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely, like, watching Breaking Bad, he doesn't seem as fucked up as he is in this. Like, he seems a lot more disassociated from reality in this than he ever was in Breaking Bad. Now, maybe I just didn't pay that much attention to Todd in Breaking Bad, because who gives a shit about Todd?
Yeah, he shows up in the last season. And he's almost just put into the series as a parallel to Jesse.
Yeah. Well, it's like when he's first introduced, working with, that bug company or whatever, he seems like just a high energy kind of kid who's just now getting into the business, and he seems really nice. You don't think anything's wrong with him, I mean, even Walt starts to like him a little bit. And then he shoots the fucking kid.
And if you remember, going back to the scene, he shoots that kid so casually.
Yeah.
He like the kid waves at him, he waves back, and then it's just like, boom!
Yeah, and it's just like, Jesus, Todd. I get what he was going for, and it made sense, but the kid obviously didn't know what he was seeing.
No, absolutely not.
And even if that kid went to his parents like, oh man, I saw a train heist today. It's like, nobody's gonna...
I saw a train heist! It was cool!
Ain't nobody gonna believe his ass.
No, he's a fucking kid!
It's like, oh yeah, sure you did, kiddo. I believe ya.
Right.
Now, Drew Sharp's parents, who lets their kid just out on a motorbike, without any supervision whatsoever? Like, jeez.
Awesome. Yes.
And
some really responsible parents, obviously.
And then they're
clearly
surprised when he doesn't come home. Like, he literally could have, broken a leg or something out there and just died. They don't know.
Yeah, he could have stumbled upon a train heist and gotten shot.
Yeah, exactly, Like, fuck. You never know who's going to be out there.
Exactly.
It actually kind of reminds me of a scene from the very beginning, when the little girl picks up the mask that Walter leaves out in the middle of the desert. And that's like the only time we ever see Walter take a half measure, because he just fucking chucks that mask out into, nowhere, and then he doesn't even go back to pick it up. If he had,
the girl just she just puts it on and plays with it.
Yeah,
like she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But if Walter had never thrown it, or if he had at least gone back and picked it up, Hank never would have gone to the school and never would have noticed, all the shit was gone, and then Hugo never would have been arrested. And I'm sure, that needed to happen for whatever reason or another. But I think that the main reason any of that was included because, like I was saying earlier, Vince Gilligan wrote that episode on his own with no help. And so Walt hadn't really become that, thinking everything through kind of guy yet.
And
Well,
Walter very much evolves as a character throughout the series.
That is true, yeah. I think end of the series Walter would fucking hate beginning of the series Walter.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, like, he just doesn't know what he's doing. Either way, let's see, where are we? So, at this point in El Camino, though, the FBI thing is still going on, and then he turns around and, like, tucked in this, like, little dark corner of this mattress is Jesse, and, like, that was a really interesting scene of Jesse literally coming out of the dark.
And going back to Vince Gilligan and how he likes to use colors.
Yeah. It was definitely an interesting scene overall, and then it's like, at this point, I'm still convinced that these guys are FBI. You know, I didn't know any different. And I really like that. It's not so much that, you know, it's like they got the wool over my eyes. It's like it was just done really well. Even down to the point where he called him Lieutenant instead of his name. It's just like, damn, that is a good code. However, Jesse should have caught that, like, right off the bat. Because he heard them calling each other by name earlier.
Right, yes. I don't, like, at that point, I don't think Jesse was in a state of mind to connect those dots, though.
Yeah, that's true. And then, you know, like, he's like, oh, you're not looking to shoot any cops. Great, I don't give a fuck. I'm still gonna point my gun at you, asshole.
Yeah, like, you point yours at me, I point mine at you. That's how this works.
They had some very quick, off the top of their head lies, which were really well done. Just like, oh, 6, I think I saw 8, and more around the block. It was like, damn, that is some fast fucking thinking. And
fire your gun, guess what's gonna happen? They come up.
Like, and the way that he did it convincingly definitely helps sell it to Jesse. And then they get him on the ground, they get him tied up, and then you hear their accent come back like, oh, shit. It's like,
oh, shit. Shit, man, that shit was crazy.
Yeah, it's just like their country accent really comes out right there, and it's just like, whoa, who are these guys?
Colonel Hick there.
And, like, he breaks out, I was like, oh shit, what are we gonna do now? Like, fuck.
And they start tying him up with something, and just it's like, hey, how?
You cut out there.
I know I did. Yeah, but like they.
No, I know. Like, they tie him up, and one of my favorite things here is the subtle background bass drop as soon as Jesse realizes they're not cops. I thought that is just really well done. It was just like, wait, you're not cops.
Wait a minute, I've been bamboozled.
I don't know what I would have done if Jesse said that. Like, just, wait a minute, I've been bamboozled. Everybody would be like, oh, what?
Wait, is this like, what?
Are we all punked? Oh, man. Yeah, so Jesse just does... Anyway, yeah, so it's... Jesse's, like, down, but then the noisy neighbor comes back and gets the other guy away, and Jesse's just like, oh, I know where the money is! Ha-ha!
Yeah. Ha-ha! You can't kill me!
And then, honestly, I feel like Neil is a very respectable criminal. He actually, you know, offers his freedom, and I believe that he would have given him the freedom right off the bat, you know, without the money in the first place. He seems like a very respectable guy, despite the fact that he's an ass, you know?
He does seem like he has kind of an ego to him.
Oh, absolutely. But he was
it kind of makes me wish that we saw more of him, but I feel like we saw it.
Yeah. And then, not only does he give him his freedom, but he lets him walk away with a third of the cash. Now, Jesse had a very good reason for letting that happen, but it's like, still...
And it's actually, like his reasoning, like, it's a parallel to the lie that Neil said earlier, except Jesse is, like, standing his ground on it. Like, if you kill me, you're gonna have to kill the loudmouth asshole out there and then every other witness in the building.
Yeah, it was pretty much turned their own thing against them. It was really well done. I did enjoy that. And then we see this, what is easily the second best line in the film, I believe. The Brita really helps the tea taste better. Cinematic masterpiece right there.
Truly.
Yeah. And then, we see that he recognizes this guy, but it doesn't go into the fish plate scene just yet. I thought it did. Just, off of poor memory of the film, I guess. But
no, it plants the seed.
Yeah, it plants the seed, and then it kind of cuts to him getting over to the vacuum dude.
Yeah. I believe his name is Ed.
Yes. Yeah, his name is Ed. And I love the fact that it goes straight back to Breaking Bad 100%. Because there's a line that Saul Goodman says, "My guy doesn't move a finger unless he's paid in full." And they straight up live up to that in this. And
oh yeah,
I really enjoy that. I mean,
yeah, and he was not paid. He was literally like
1,800 short.
Yeah.
I loved Vince Gilligan and his writers, how they definitely make sure to keep track of their own history. It was just really nice. I really.
Now, that's a lot of things that shows struggle with is a narrative consistency.
Yeah. No shit. Now, another line Ed says here is, "You made your own luck, as did your partner, as did your lawyer," which a lot of people are fan theorying that Saul Goodman is dead by this point because of that. But I don't think that. I don't think that's how Better Call Saul is going to end.
There's no evidence to suggest that. We know where he ends up post Breaking Bad. He ends up managing a Cinnabon shop.
Yeah, which is exactly what he said in a previous line in Breaking Bad as well. Which I believe was the first time he ever brought up the vacuum thing anyway. It was definitely interesting. I don't know where exactly Better Call Saul is leading. As far as like interviews and whatnot, like nobody's been able to crack what's going on there. Not even Vince, because apparently the dude who's directing it, good friend of Vince, still won't even let Vince know. So it seems like it's going to be really interesting in these next fourth and fifth season of that. So I am interested. And as far as I know, Vince Gilligan only directed one episode out of the entire thing, and it's like the second episode of season 4. So,
Vince?
Yeah. So, I really want to see season 4, but it's not on Netflix. So.
Not. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm only through season 3.
Yeah, I'm only through season 3 as well. Better Call Saul, honestly, it's a lot slower than Breaking Bad, but I still think it's really
Oh, it's so much slower.
I still really enjoy it. So, anyway, back to El Camino. Then Ed calls the cops on him. Now, I didn't fall for it. Like, I knew right from the start that he had called the cops, because that just seems like he's been in this business long enough. He's an old guy. He knows, he knows what to do here. He's not stupid. And I really like that part where he's like, look at that response time.
Yeah, Jesse trying to call his bluff, like, you are so full of crap.
They make you stay on the line, yo.
They make you stay on the line, asshole.
It's just so fun. And then Ed, as Jesse's running out the back, he's like, hey, take your money. It's just like...
he runs back for it and runs out.
It's like it would have been so easy for Ed to just, let him leave the money, but... The crazy part is, like, even after all that, Ed is still, like, willing to do the deal. It's just crazy.
It is crazy because he is a person.
Yeah.
But like as long as Jesse still gets him the money, I understand why. Jesse already knows who. It might even be beneficial for him to get him out of the country.
Yeah. Well, not country, but out of the area for sure. I mean, they pass through Canada, but I don't think they go to Canada, He's in Alaska. Anyway, so it's another one of those just sudden cuts here. It just goes to him calling his parents.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Before that, Ed had a really great description. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, you know, tall, skinny, you know, tattoo above his right eyebrow of like an
Large
insect.
insect over his right eye.
It's like, damn, dude, fucking fast on his feet. I mean, granted, yeah, he's been doing this a long while. He knows what to do, but it's like, shit. Anyway, yeah. So it cuts to him cuts to Jesse calling his parents. You know, and he apologizes for his problems. We already talked about this scene. And then like he's in the house, and he's like trying to get into the safe, and he's just like, Jake's birthday. It's just like that's a big oof from me.
Big oof.
And then we hop into the fish plate scene from earlier. With the welding dude, and he's like sliding back and forth. And that was honestly just to show us like how brutal these guys really were to Jesse the entire time. Like much worse than anybody could have thought.
And Todd, of all people, fucking stands up for him there.
Sort of. I mean, he's like, oh, you know, you'll break his legs.
Break his legs. I mean, he's not going to be able to cook.
He's like, oh, what are you, the fucking HR department? Jeez. And then
Shut up, kid.
And honestly, I was kind of disappointed that it didn't break. I wanted the thing to break.
Well, it still had to be around for, you know, the end of the series.
They could have caught him and put in a few more trussets or whatever.
I mean, true. But, you know.
I think that would have been funnier, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, so, I mean, that scene was just fucked up. And then I think it cuts into the strippers, like, not long after that.
Yeah, from there it goes to the what was it called?
I don't know.
Oh, it was but it was like a welding place. It cuts to that, and then,
it was Candy's welding place, and then
and then the ladies of the and the big dude who is the only cameo from Better Call in the entire movie.
Yeah, not even Saul Goodman. To be fair, Saul had just left the country like 6 months prior, I think. So, or not the country, but the state at the very least. So it is. I guess it is theoretically possible that Saul could be dead by the time that this happens, because he left when Walt left, and that was like 6 months prior to these events.
I don't see it being likely, and there's no evidence to support.
There's no evidence. I'm just saying within the timeline, it is possible. The last scene I remember from modern day in Better Call Saul was, like the trash compactor scene, like he gets locked in there or something.
I think so.
Or no. It was him yelling at the kid to get a lawyer when he stole from the mall.
Was that it?
I think that was the last scene that we see him in, because it's him like going back to his criminal lawyer thing. And the police call him a dick.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I mean, that doesn't really lead much. So then we see, all the strippers and whatnot, and like the one dude is just shouting, Wanda! Wanda! It's just like, dude, shut up.
I mean, like, what else is appropriate to shout in that situation?
So it's funny, like, well, that was as they're walking out, but as they're walking in, if you listen very hard, you can hear like the conversations that they're having, and I swear I heard one of the strippers say, "Oh, that's your daughter's name?" I was like, "What the fuck?"
What?
It's like, I don't know if that was planned at all, but it was just like, that's really creepy if that's in there.
Ah. One guy does mention he's a parent.
That is true. So, fuck that, man. That's just weird. Anyway, so it's like they leave, and then Jesse's outside playing with the beetle, which is a subtle reference back to that scene with Combo before he dies, where Jesse's just playing around with the beetle, and then he lets him go, and then Combo just fucking kills it. But this time, the beetle gets to go alive.
Hooray! Hooray for the beetle!
Yes. And then what I really liked about this scene coming up when he walks in is that, the music gets turned down, but unlike a lot of, movies and whatnot, you actually see someone turning the dial. I really like that, personally. And then
Nice.
everybody's super chill as he walks in, and he's just like, yo, can I have, like, $1,800, man?
Do you mind? And, like, he says, like, I'm not here to rob you. I'm just asking for the money.
Yeah, which is something Walt would not have done.
No,
Walt
absolutely
would not have been so kind. Walt would have just fucking brought his fulminated mercury and blew the shit up.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Walt would have been like, you took my fucking money, you're fucking dead.
You want some meth? Sure. Well, this is not meth.
Yeah. I doubt Walt would have left him leave the apartment when they were taking the money.
Probably not. Well, absolutely, yeah. He would have put up a lot more fight in that.
Or at the very least, what he would have done is when he's recognized him out in the street, he would have gotten in his car, turned around, and just fucking ran through him. Yeah, no?
Oh,
like, I really expected Jesse to do that, but no, Jesse just fucking drives off. I was like, oh, that's different. So we see him, we see Neil just be like, shut up. And then the guys continue talking. He's like, shut up means everybody. And then he later says, shut up again. And then he plays gay chicken with the other dude.
Gay chicken?
Yeah, it's like you get as close as you can without kissing, and, whoever chickens loses. So he just, like, gets really up close with the other dude. He's, like, gay chickening him down so that he'll shut up.
Look at me. Look at me.
Look at my sexual lips. Anyway, so after that, we get into this, like, standoff, and he's, like, looking at the gun. He's like, is that a 22? He's just fucking laughing at him.
Where'd you get that? I think it was my grandfather's.
He's like, oh, it's cute. We can go plinking. But he's, like, high on coke at the time, so he doesn't, like, even notice the gun in the other pocket.
Oh, no, he does not.
And
that's a big mistake.
Like, honestly, this scene was really well done. I really enjoyed it. We already talked about it.
We did.
And it's just really well done, and I really enjoyed it. And then we see him, grab the IDs from the other dudes as they're leaving.
One of them was like, dude, you're on fire.
Well, before that, he's like, hey, I have kids, and Jesse was like, I don't give a shit. But we all know that Jesse does give a shit.
Absolutely, he does.
And so this is like a very hollow threat, similar to how Walt had done with the lasers. It's like...
But the guys don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the same thing with the lasers. Gretchen and Elliot didn't know what was going on. They're just like, oh shit, we're dead.
Yeah.
And all I could think of during this scene, though, was, man, it's going to be a bitch and a half for them to get new IDs. I don't know why that was the thought going through my head, but I was just like, God.
That was it all, like, oh my god, not oh my god, Jesse. No, and no, it's going to be a bitch for them to get new IDs.
Yeah. And then, he's, like, tripping over the body. He's like, hey, dude, you're on fire.
And Jesse's just like, oh, fuck, okay. He barely gives a shit about him being on fire.
Yeah. And then we see him blow up the welding place. And honestly, this was one of the more disappointing points in the film. Sure, I like explosions as much as the next guy, but this one was unrealistic because those tanks are built in a very specific way to have pressure release valves so that this can't happen. So it was just a very unrealistic explosion, in my opinion. And Mythbusters even tested that.
Too hard about that.
What?
I don't think most people are going to think too hard about that.
The only reason I even think about that is because of Mythbusters and how close these guys usually are to science. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that was the way that they went. But I mean, it's fine, I guess.
I guess. I mean, it's an
Whatever.
explosion, whatever.
And then we get another great transition here of like he's just in a hotel room, and honestly, I thought that was just like the next day for whatever reason. I didn't even think anything of it. I was like, oh, who's he on the phone with? And then we find out, it's back in time, and he's with Walter White.
He's with Walt.
Best fucking cameo. I really enjoyed seeing Walt again. Like this was just really well done.
And this is the only time we see Walt in the movie is in this flashback.
Yeah, and he's got a big brain. Very big. Because it was just a bald cap. I don't know if you notice how big his head was.
I did not notice.
Yeah,
but he's big brain Walt.
His forehead was fucking gigantic. And a lot of people like trying to put Fat Todd and Big Brain Walt into canon by saying that's just simply how Jesse sees them.
I mean, I guess like if you want to make a stretch and say that, I guess
because I mean I could see that. I could see him seeing Walt as big brained. It makes sense, and then seeing Todd as super fat when he's in a jail cell starving to death. I mean it makes sense.
I mean I guess you could see him as like this gluttonous overlord of him, but I feel like that's kind of a stretch.
Oh, it's absolutely a stretch since they've never done anything like that on Breaking Bad. But
no.
that's the fan theory for canonicity here.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, throughout this entire film, I really, really liked Aaron Paul's acting. He does a phenomenal job jumping between all these different times in his life. Now, he was missing
the best actors on the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was missing his hand tattoo in this scene with Walt, but we can give a pass. He's older now. Mm-hmm. Maybe he got it taken off and then got it put it back on. We don't know.
Like he got it taken off. He's like, oh man, I really miss.
That's another fan theory is that Todd just happened to gain all this weight and then lose it really quick.
Yeah, dude, he's really good at gaining and losing weight fast.
Now, Jesse Plemons, the dude who plays Todd, actually gained the weight for a role in another movie or show or whatever that I will probably never watch. I can't even remember what it was, but as far as I've been able to look into, that's why he's fat. And why he wasn't able to lose weight. I think they should have just waited a little bit longer to make the film just so they could have a right-sized Todd, but, whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And by that point, everybody else would have been too damn old. And, the only people that you can explain away age is Badger and Skinny Pete because they're on meth anyway.
True.
Mm-hmm.
The age difference in this movie is a little dry. You can even see it in... It's a little dry.
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
The age difference in this movie can be a little... You can even see it in Jesse a little bit.
Yeah, not as much, though. I mean, they did do Jesse's makeup really well in the younger scenes. Mm-hmm. But like I said, they definitely missed out on, the arm tattoo and things like that.
When did Breaking Bad end? It ended in
2013.
What? 2013. So this is 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years is a long time. 6 years ago, I was very young and would not be able to pass for today. And today, I would not be able to pass for that age. So, yeah. I mean, 6 years is a long time.
It is a long time. It's very much a long time. Back onto the subject of Walter White and the flashback. So, we also get into the last bitch of the series.
Yeah, it was a fucking salad.
Yeah, bitch.
And he's getting that bromelain, but instead he says bromide. And that's actually a reference to the BR in Breaking Bad because that's the symbol that they use. Mm-hmm. Or so people say, but I'd be really surprised if that wasn't, what it is.
And I didn't realize this until my second run through. He never says bitch at all in present day.
No, he does not. And I'm not sure why. It's kind of disappointing.
Well, I feel like that is kind of meant to represent his growth as a character at this point.
Skinny Pete still says bitch a lot.
Skinny Pete does still say bitch.
Because, that
was his word, damn it.
Badger damn near dropped the fence or whatever. He's like, hey, watch it, bitch. That one was pretty funny. I like that scene. Anyway,
and Walter White says like probably one of the most quintessential Walter White lines I ever hear him say.
Before that, you see that Jesse and Walter both really care for each other. In kind of like a father-son kind of relationship, because Walter starts choking, and the first thing Jesse does is he goes behind and like starts patting his back, even though it's not helping. He's just like, hey, it's like, and then he's telling Walter, you need to hydrate, you need your electrolytes that you were just talking about, the night before. And I thought that was really well done. And then Walt goes into talking about college. He's like, well, sports medicine, what the fuck was that about? Sports medicine. If anything, I thought he would go into art. Like...
Nah, sports medicine. That's Jesse right there. That is Jesse Pinkman.
Like, that couldn't have been more out of the blue. I've never heard him talk about sports ever in the series.
I know. It was an odd line. It was an odd line, but it was there.
And then, Walt is just like, you know what? Business and marketing. Like, you could teach that class. And that was well done. And then he's like, yeah, all you need to do is get your GED.
Like, what do I need a GED for, bitch?
You were on stage when I got my diploma. It's like, no, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. It's just like, Jesus, Walt. You fucking dick. And, yeah, so that does lead into the line that, it's... At least you got to do something, or at least you didn't have to wait your whole life for something special. And that ties...
You're really lucky, you know that?
Yeah. It ties between Walter and Jesse, as well as Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. Bryan Cranston is, older than Aaron Paul by quite a bit here. And so he's saying as an actor that Aaron Paul is really lucky, but he's also saying that, as Walt to Jesse, he's lucky he gets to go into something so special so early, and then Jesse just looks at him like, dude, what the fuck? This is meth.
Dude, have you been watching the past few seasons of this show?
Like, yeah, no, dude, this is fucked up. So, I think this is... This scene occurs before Tuco?
No, this is after Tuco. This is when they're trying to handle their own... This is, timeline-wise, this is the part where Walt lies about the methylamine.
Right, yep. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and they have to go into the desert for, like half a week and just cook nonstop. This is on their way back from that.
Right, yeah, I remember that now. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember if that was before or after Tuco. And Tuco, I mean, Tuco comes back on Better Call Saul, and
he does,
and that explains something that actually happens in the first episode. Is it says that Tuco just got sprung pretty recently, but in Better Call Saul he just got arrested. So it's kind of an interesting tie-in there, and I like that. So, and he gets arrested for beating up Mike Ehrmantraut. So I thought that was really well done. I like that.
Dude, fucking Mike is like half the show in Better Call Saul, and I love it.
Yeah, I like being able to see more of Mike Ehrmantraut, and from what I can tell from like interviews with the cast and crew, he's just as scary in real life.
I love that though.
He was on like this big panel thing with Conan, and he just gets up and walks away like partway through, and he disappears. And everyone's just like, did he just? Oh, okay. And then he comes back like 25 minutes later with like a thing of beer, and he like everyone's just like, okay.
I'll allow it.
He's just sitting there drinking it. It's like, yep, okay. We don't know what's going on here.
Why not?
So we're damn near at the end here, actually.
We are.
Because immediately after this, it cuts to Ed delivering him to Alaska.
And he goes over like everything that he needs for his new life. Mom's maiden name, social security number, and then it backward.
And this kind of shows how intelligent Jesse really was. I mean, even like back in the beginning, like at the beginning of Breaking Bad, you see him like recalling all this science stuff to Badger and Pete and trying to seem all smart and cool and shit. He's like, yeah, no, this is actually an Erlenmeyer flask. It's like, well, he actually did learn a lot from Walt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so this is definitely a scene where you get to see how intelligent he can be when he puts forth the effort. And sure, it's just memorization, but it's like still it was interesting to see that. I mean, he definitely didn't have a lot of time to memorize this. Maybe a couple days, I think Walt was only
he had to memorize a lot of that in the back of the truck on the way there.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And that poor spot in the truck that he was in, like, I couldn't imagine driving from New Mexico to Alaska.
It's like being in the back of the truck with the dead body again. Like, you just can never catch a break.
I don't know. I think I'd prefer the cramped space with the heater over the dead body. But
I mean, my point is that he never can be comfortable.
No, but we actually do get to see him comfortable as soon as he gets in his car, because you see such a jarring difference between the ending of Breaking Bad and the beginning and the ending of this, even though it's the exact same scene pretty much. It's him just driving down this highway, but
it's shot like almost the exact same way.
Yeah, it's white clothes versus dark clothes. It's clean shaven versus the thick unkempt beard. It's midday compared to night. It's a smile, even though slight, compared to shouting incessantly. And then we get to see one last moment with Jane, and I never realized how pointy her nose was until now. Like,
I like how that's how you end that thought. I never realized how pointy her nose was.
Well, I mean, like I noticed weird things, like Pete and his hair. Also, I also never noticed that Skinny Pete and Badger have the same name, because Badger's Peter Mayhew. Like in canon, that's his name, is Peter Mayhew. And so it's Pete and Pete.
No, it's Brandon Mayhew.
Oh, is it Brandon? I could have sworn it was Peter Mayhew.
No, his name is Brandon Mayhew.
Okay, never mind. I'm just a dumbass.
You are.
Okay, anyway. Where were we? Oh, right. So I just happened to notice random shit like that. Anyway. Her nose is very pointy.
I want to talk about the Jane flashback, though, because she has one line in the entire movie. And it's such a powerful line.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, the universe... she said she has been following where the universe has been taking her for a while now. And
for her whole life, she says.
Yeah, for her whole life, and it got her nowhere.
And she ends with, like, it's better to make those decisions for yourself. And then it cuts to the end of the movie with Jesse driving away, and he finally has the opportunity to decide what he wants to be.
Now, it is a little bit disappointing that he, didn't get to actually choose to go to Alaska. That was technically, he asked for Mike's opinion on that.
I mean, true, yes, but what he becomes in Alaska, that's entirely up to him.
Yeah, and, I wish that we would see Aaron Paul back again in not in Breaking Bad, but in Better Call Saul, at least in, like, a flashback or something, because Aaron Paul is such an amazing actor.
He's moving on to Westworld now, though, so good for him.
Yeah, I definitely have to check that out, because, God, Aaron Paul is such an amazing actor. He really is, and he brought such life to this character.
It's funny, because I don't know how well you know his acting history, but there's literally nothing beyond Breaking Bad. He didn't even take any acting classes. This is, like, he just, like, they hired him on, and then he was like, well, yeah, I just, like, pretended to be someone else, and that was it. And it's like, fucking hell, man, the talent in that kid!
Fucking amazing. But I could have swore he was on Punk'd or something.
Before this?
Yeah.
He might have been. But I know for a fact that he doesn't have any form of acting training or whatever. He never took any sort of classes. And it's like, yeah, I just pretended to be someone else, and it worked.
Yeah, so he was in... He was like one of the leads of Punk'd. Apparently. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Odd. But yeah, no, he's such an amazing actor. I'm really glad he was able to get this role. And I actually watched, you can find it on YouTube, but there's a video of him doing like the first read that he had ever done of the script.
I think you could find his audition for Breaking
the audition. That's what I said. That's what I meant. And it's still just really well done. Like, sure, it's missing a little bit of the particular mood, but to be fair, he's looking at like some lady on the other side of a desk compared to some old man outside his window. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but still just phenomenally well done. And I'm so glad that Vince Gilligan decided to keep him in, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
this series would have been so different.
Yeah, if Vince had killed him off in the first season, from what I understand, where that was supposed to go was that was going to be a point that Walt would look back on and want revenge for.
Revenge on who?
Whoever would have killed him based on that.
Huh?
Probably Tuco.
At that point, yeah, it could have been Tuco.
And so he was only supposed to be like Walt's introduction to this world. And so it would have been a very different, probably not as well liked series.
Well, Jesse is such a morally grounding character for the entire show.
He really is, and like to think that was never planned.
No,
it's just great. I mean, honestly, I really, really like his character throughout the entirety of it. Really.
And at the end of everything, Jesse is the one that got away.
Yeah, I'm surprised they never bring up his nickname ever again. Captain Cook, like never comes up after the first episode.
Captain Cook.
Not once does it show up, and I find that kind of
greatest rival.
I was hoping that at some point Walter would be like, "Oh, come on, aren't you like Captain Cook?" But it never does. Not once. I was disappointed in that.
And the chili powder, that was his specialty.
That comes up at least once afterwards, but
that's his signature, man.
That's only just before Tuco dies, so I don't think it comes up again after that. Another actor that wasn't supposed to last was Tio, the dude in the wheelchair. He was only supposed to be in that one episode. I also did not know that the actor who plays him was on Scarface, which is what is a big influence on how this turned out, because he was supposed to be Mr. Chips to Scarface is how Walter White is described.
Right.
Now I don't know who Mr. Chips is, but I would assume he's a very nice guy.
Just the best, just the most upstanding individual. I don't know who Mr. Chips is.
Now, as far as I've heard, he's been compared to Mr. Rogers, sort of.
Early season Walt is supposed to be a Mr. Rogers-esque character.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers or Mr. Chips is what Vince Gilligan says, so whoever Mr. Chips is probably very likely to be similar.
That being said, I would love to see Mr. Rogers turn into a meth cook.
Well, you can find that on YouTube, I'm sure.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Anyway, so that's pretty much all I had for El Camino as far as like the notes go.
Oh yeah, now we get into the ending. So, how do you feel looking back on it? How do you feel about the way it ended?
Well, I liked the way that it ended. I liked that it was pretty much an exact, fix to the end of Breaking Bad as far as like Jesse goes. That being said, I still feel like there's missing information.
I don't think that you can answer everything in a 2.5-hour movie.
That's why they just need to make another one. They can't let it die.
Keep milking it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna reference a private conversation that you and I had before starting this podcast.
How dare you?
I talked about that I didn't like the ending. I specifically didn't like the fact that Jesse got away because it made me question why the movie was made. And I realized something when I watched the finale. I'm wrong.
Oh, good.
I was wrong. Well, having rewatched the finale, I realized that if Jesse had died, or if it had gone in almost any other direction, it would have undermined the ending of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So, looking back, I'm glad that it ended the way it did.
Yeah.
I do feel like it is. I do feel like it's. I wouldn't say it's predictable, but I feel like it's very easy to see the roadmap of that movie.
I think they also kind of handed it to you very easily along the way. I mean, right off the bat, they're telling you that he's going to Alaska.
Mm-hmm. And he never deviates from that path. And I feel like this movie could have done a little bit more. But I'm that being said, I'm not complaining about what we got. I still think it was a really well done movie.
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't rate it like a 10 out of 10 or anything, but it was definitely high up there. If I had to rate it like out of 10, it would definitely be like an 8.5 or a 9 for sure. Like I said, there's still some things that I didn't like about the film, particularly some of the really long scenes, like him trying to get into the door and things like that. I just don't like that kind of thing. And I feel like this would have been better as a mini-series as compared to a movie, but...
I think it's fine as a movie.
I think it's fine as a movie, but I think it would have been even better as maybe even like a 2-part mini-series.
I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'm gonna rate this an 8 out of 10. There's a couple of things with the movie itself that I have a problem with. Nothing really too major. The main thing that's really taking it down a few pegs for me is the potential that this movie could have been if it had gone in a different direction. But other than that, I don't really... Like I said, there's nothing in the movie itself that I really necessarily have a... There's nothing that's breaking about this. So I like what it is. I'm gonna fantasize about what could have been, but...
For now, we can just stick to Better Call Saul. That's the last bit we have for a connection to this universe. Yeah, so I think that's about it. That's all we had, so...
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know your thoughts and ideas down in the comments. Yeah, have a good one.